The America you grew up in is gone, and nobody bothered to tell you. If you're over 50, you're not crazy for feeling like everything's falling apart. You're watching it happen in real time. Retirements are vanishing, Social Security is on track to be insolvent by 2033, and over half of Americans in your age group have less than $100,000 saved. Meanwhile, corporate profits are at record highs, and your utility bills are going up even when you're using less. The country you spent your life building? It's being liquidated, sold off piece by piece, while you're told to tighten your belt and ride it out. This isn't a recession. It's the controlled demolition of the American middle class, and it's time we talk about what's really happening before it's too late. You want to talk about collapse? Let's start with a number no one's really talking about: 1.1 billion square feet. That's how much vacant office space is sitting empty across the United States right now, as of the fourth quarter of 2025. That's not just a little oversupply. That's a ghost economy. And it's not just New York or San Francisco anymore. We're seeing it in Phoenix, in Tampa, in freaking Salt Lake City. These skyscrapers we once called symbols of progress are now vertical tombstones of the American dream. In Manhattan, nearly 25% of commercial office space is sitting dark, collecting dust, with landlords defaulting left and right. You know what happens when banks hold billions in unpaid loans backed by properties that nobody wants. It's 2008 again, except this time, it's not mortgages. It's commercial real estate that's breaking the banks. And this time, there's no appetite for bailouts because people have finally realized, we don't work like that anymore. Hybrid killed it, remote work buried it, AI hammered the final nail. Nobody wants to commute 90 minutes into an overpriced cubicle anymore, especially when your job can be outsourced to a bot or a freelancer in the Philippines for a quarter of your salary. So now cities that depended on commuter foot traffic, restaurants, coffee shops, dry cleaners, corner stores, are bleeding out. San Francisco is a live-action zombie movie. Chicago's Loop is a wind tunnel of boarded-up cafes. And downtown LA, it looks like a collapsed empire. You think it's bad now? Wait until these empty buildings start collapsing municipal tax bases. Cities are funded by commercial property taxes. When those dry up, it's not just the skyline that suffers. It's your schools, your streetlights, your transit systems, your 911 response times. And here's the kicker. The government saw this coming. The Federal Reserve has been warning about concentrated risk in commercial real estate since 2022, but you know what they did? Nothing. Because if they admitted how fragile it was, Wall Street would panic. So instead, they let it rot. We are watching the core infrastructure of the American city quietly collapse, and nobody's talking about it. Welcome to the real silent recession. The grocery store is where the middle class goes to die. You probably felt it last time you bought eggs, or maybe it hit when you grabbed a frozen pizza and it was $9.49. Doesn't matter where it started, because we're all feeling it now. America's grocery stores have become financial war zones, and the casualties are middle-class families. The USDA just quietly admitted that food prices are up 26% since 2020, and that's with their softened, government-approved math. If you shop at a regular grocery store, you know the truth. It feels more like 50%. The price of ground beef has doubled. A gallon of orange juice is now a luxury item. And here's the real sinister part. This isn't just inflation. This is corporate greedflation. Tyson, Kroger, PepsiCo, they're raking in record profits while shrinking their products and blaming it on supply chains. Give me a break. They're not paying farmers more. They're just charging you more because they know they can. Meanwhile, SNAP benefits have been slashed. Pandemic-era food assistance programs are gone, so the poor are flooding into dollar stores, where the food is ultra-processed garbage that keeps you alive but slowly kills you. If you think I'm exaggerating, understand this. Nearly 38 million Americans are food insecure right now. That's more people than the entire population of Canada. And the middle class? They're skipping meals. They're rationing meat. They're Googling how to make lentils taste like steak. And let's not even start on baby formula shortages, which still haven't fully resolved since 2022. Or the fact that major grocers like Whole Foods and Target are closing stores in low-income neighborhoods because of theft and unprofitability. You know what that is? That's the slow rollout of food apartheid. They are creating food deserts in real time. You know what comes next? Dependency. Government meal cards, corporate partnerships to track your calories, all wrapped in a ribbon of AI wellness compliance. Oh, you want that second bag of Doritos? Sorry, your glucose score says no. We are not far from a future where access to calories is controlled by a database. So enjoy your grocery freedom while it lasts. Because in collapse economies, food isn't just expensive, it becomes political. The middle-class job market has been obliterated by AI and no one told you. You want to know what collapse really feels like? Try sending out 400 job applications and getting 5 interviews and no offers. That's the new normal in 2025, especially if you're in your 40s, have a college degree, and made the mistake of thinking your job wasn't replaceable. Let me hit you with the brutal truth. Mid-skill white-collar work is dying, and no, it's not coming back. We're not just talking about truckers or cashiers anymore. Accountants, paralegals, graphic designers, social media managers, even some programmers. These jobs are being vaporized by AI faster than the government can print new acronyms for retraining initiatives. In Q3 2025 alone, over 620,000 white-collar jobs were eliminated across finance, tech, and marketing. And you know what's replacing them? Algorithms, chatbots, language models, AI co-pilots that never ask for PTO and don't need healthcare. And here's the real kicker. Companies aren't even pretending anymore. JP Morgan just replaced 30% of its compliance staff with proprietary AI tools. Wells Fargo let go of an entire fraud prevention team and now uses an algorithm trained on 10 years of internal data. And Google? They quietly laid off hundreds of ad sales reps and now use AI to do client strategy. You think you're safe because you're creative? Adobe just rolled out a design assistant that can make entire marketing campaigns in 5 minutes. Mid-skill means mid-dead. And those so-called AI-proof trades everyone talks about, electricians, plumbers, guess what? They're aging out. There aren't enough apprentices. Those jobs are safe for now, but the wages aren't rising fast enough to keep pace with inflation. Meanwhile, your LinkedIn feed is filled with 50-year-olds pivoting to copywriting boot camps and data analytics courses. Folks, that's not a career strategy. That's professional homelessness with extra steps. We are watching the middle class get obliterated not by war, but by automation. And no one's throwing a lifeline, no UBI, no job guarantees, just vibes and resume tips from influencers. The elite already adjusted. They bought the AI companies, they own the patents. They don't care if you can't afford groceries. They only care if your credit card still works. So if you feel like your work has no value, that your effort isn't enough anymore, you're not broken. The system is. And this collapse, it's not theoretical. It's already here. Local news is dead, and with it, democracy. The collapse of America isn't just about what you can see. It's also about what you can't. And nowhere is that more terrifying than in the death of local journalism. You probably haven't noticed, but over 2,900 newspapers have vanished from the US since 2005. And in 2024 alone, over 130 more closed, wiping out coverage in entire counties overnight. We now have more than 225 news deserts across the country, places where no one is watching city council meetings, no one is investigating corrupt police departments, and no one is telling you that your water is being poisoned until it's too late. And this isn't a partisan issue. This is a power vacuum. When watchdogs disappear, predators move in. The void left by dead newspapers is being filled by AI-generated clickbait, political disinformation sites, and PR fluff that reads like it was ghostwritten by a lobbyist on Xanax. Sinclair and Nexstar now control the majority of local TV stations, running the exact same talking points in different cities to make it feel local. And don't get me started on Facebook, where the community news group is just a breeding ground for unverified rumors, rage bait, and untraceable propaganda. The kicker? Studies show that cities without robust local news coverage experience higher taxes, more corruption, and lower voter turnout. The less you know, the more they take. Period. When no one covers your city hall budget meeting, you don't realize they just outsourced public services to a private equity firm. When no one questions the cops, suddenly your local department has a $7 million tank and no body cams. And the result? You stop voting. You stop caring. You stop believing change is even possible. And that's the goal. Because while you're distracted by national headlines, Trump, Biden, border crisis, whatever, the real theft is happening 5 miles from your house, in silence. This is how empires fall, not with a bang, but with a blackout. Not just a collapse of infrastructure, but a collapse of awareness. And once the light goes out, good luck getting it back. You are watching the deliberate dismantling of your access to truth, and the people doing it. They don't need you informed. They just need you quiet. Your power bill is funding the collapse. Let me ask you something. Why is your electricity bill going up faster than your usage? Seriously, you're turning off the lights. You're running the dishwasher at night. You swapped your bulbs for LEDs. And yet your monthly utility bill is eating your paycheck like it's got a vendetta. That's because the American energy grid is no longer about delivering power. It's about extracting wealth. As of late 2025, the average monthly electric bill in the U.S. is $181.10, a 34% increase since 2020. In states like Texas and California, people are regularly seeing $300 to $500 bills, even in the winter. You know why? Because while demand has barely risen, utilities are jacking up transmission and distribution fees, blaming infrastructure upgrades, most of which are being funneled into executive bonuses, stock buybacks, and glossy PR campaigns about green transitions that haven't even started. Meanwhile, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street now own double-digit shares in nearly every major utility company. That means Wall Street gets paid first, whether the lights stay on or not. And we haven't even talked about privatized grids. Texas's ERCOT grid, remember the one that failed catastrophically in 2021, is still independent, still fragile, and still built to make rich guys richer. In fact, during the last major winter storm, Texans paid over $5 billion in overage fees while freezing in their homes. You are now being financially punished just for needing heat. And you think solar will save you? Think again. Net metering, the process where you sell your excess solar power back to the grid, is being gutted in state after state. Florida just passed a bill slashing solar credits by 75%, making it financially useless to go green. Why? Because they don't want you independent. They want you plugged in and paying up. Even the Inflation Reduction Act's energy incentives have been twisted into tax write-offs for utility monopolies, not relief for consumers. So here's the truth. Your electric bill isn't just rising. It's weaponized. It's a hidden tax that feeds corporate consolidation, manipulates demand, and ensures that as America collapses, the lights stay on. For them, not you. The US dollar is no longer untouchable, and that should terrify you. You probably don't think about the dollar much. It's just there, in your wallet, in your bank, in your life. But I need you to understand something. The American dollar is no longer the rock-solid foundation it used to be, and that changes everything. For nearly 80 years, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency. That means oil, gold, trade deals, debt. Most of it has been priced and settled in our money. That's why we've been able to run deficits with impunity, print trillions without instant collapse, and export inflation across oceans. But those days are ending. In the past 24 months, over 30 countries have entered bilateral trade agreements that exclude the dollar. That includes China and Brazil, Russia and India, even Saudi Arabia and Iran, 2 nations that used to be sworn enemies. What's uniting them? A shared desire to dethrone the dollar. And they're not just talking. BRICS Plus, the expanded alliance of major emerging economies, just launched a working group for a commodity-backed currency. If they succeed, game over. Because suddenly, our debt becomes everyone else's problem, and no one wants to hold the bag. You think inflation was bad in 2022? Wait until the dollar loses its pricing power globally. Imports will explode in cost, interest rates will spike, your mortgage, your student loans, your credit cards, they'll eat you alive. And the Fed won't be able to stop it. Why do you think they keep raising rates even as banks collapse and home sales freeze? They're trying to defend the dollar at all costs, because if that falls, everything else does too. Meanwhile, U.S. Treasury bonds, once considered the safest investment on earth, are being dumped. In 2023, China sold over $100 billion in U.S. debt. Japan followed. Even our allies are hedging with gold and crypto. And here's the worst part. We did this to ourselves. Decades of weaponizing the dollar, via sanctions, asset seizures, and trade bullying, have finally backfired. The world is tired of being held hostage to our monetary system, so now they're building their own. And if you think America can maintain global dominance without control of the currency that fuels it, you don't understand how empires die. First they lose trust, then they lose power, and then they collapse. Your retirement was quietly stolen while you were sleeping. They stole your retirement, and they did it without even telling you. You played by the rules. You worked the job, paid the taxes, contributed to your 401k, and trusted the system that told you there would be a soft landing waiting when you hit 65. But now, that runway's collapsed. The pension system that sustained your parents, it's practically extinct. And the 401k that replaced it, it was never meant to carry this kind of weight. In fact, over 64% of Americans aged 50 to 64 don't even have enough saved to retire with dignity. Half of them don't even have $100,000. Do the math. That won't even cover 5 years of rent and health care in most states. Meanwhile, the market that's supposed to grow your savings is a rigged casino. In 2022 and 2023, the average retirement portfolio lost 20%, and it still hasn't recovered in real terms. Why? Because inflation stole your gains. The dollar you saved in 2003 now buys just 54 cents of goods. And Social Security? It was already projected to be insolvent by 2033, but that date is getting closer because of reduced payroll taxes and higher payouts. Congress knows this. They've seen the charts. And what are they doing about it? Floating quiet proposals to raise the retirement age to 70 and means test benefits, code for cutting what they promised you. So while you're calculating whether you can afford to downsize, the billionaires who gutted your pension fund and raided your housing market are buying third homes in cash. And here's what makes it even worse. The cost of aging has doubled. Medicare doesn't cover vision, hearing, or dental. Assisted living averages $4,500 per month. Long-term care? Try $90,000 a year out of pocket. So what are people doing? They're going back to work. Walmart greeters, DoorDash drivers, 68-year-olds picking up shifts at the airport, not because they want to stay active, but because they have to. Because America looked you in the eye and said, "We can't afford you anymore." And you're expected to accept that, quietly, without anger, without protest. But if you feel betrayed, you're not alone. You were promised a retirement. You were handed a broken economy and a bag of lies. Your house isn't an asset anymore. It's bait. Remember when buying a house meant you'd finally made it? That it was the cornerstone of the American dream? That's over. And the worst part? No one told you the rules changed. If you're over 50 and still holding on to a home you bought in the 90s or early 2000s, you might think you're sitting on a gold mine, but you're not. You're sitting on bait, because what's coming next isn't a real estate boom, it's a liquidity trap. Home values have surged over the past decade, sure, but not because of real demand. They've gone up because of institutional buying, ultra-low interest rates, and foreign cash injections that turned American homes into speculative assets. BlackRock, Vanguard, and institutional buyers own over 500,000 single-family homes in the U.S., and counting. They're not buying to live. They're buying to control the market. And now that interest rates have spiked and inflation is strangling wallets, the music's about to stop. No one can afford to buy anymore. First-time buyers are priced out. Mortgage rates over 7% have frozen the market. And your asset? It's only worth what someone is willing to pay, which increasingly is no one. So you're stuck. If you sell, you lose your low interest rate and have nowhere to go. If you stay, your property taxes and insurance skyrocket while local services collapse. In places like Florida, homeowners saw insurance premiums jump 40% in 1 year, if they could even find coverage at all. California homeowners are getting dropped completely. Meanwhile, the younger generation, they'll never buy. Not because they don't want to, because they can't. A $400,000 starter home now requires $110,000 a year in income just to qualify. And guess what? 78% of millennials don't make that. So here's what's really happening. They're turning housing into a subscription model. You'll own nothing and pay rent to a corporate landlord forever. And if you already own, you're going to get squeezed on taxes, maintenance, insurance, repairs, until you sell in desperation just so they can snatch it up. Your house isn't an investment anymore. It's a target, and they're coming for it. Slowly, quietly, legally. The American dream has been reverse-engineered into a trap. You just haven't heard the spring snap yet. America no longer protects its own people. You grew up believing one fundamental truth. No matter what happened in the world, America took care of its own. You paid taxes, you obeyed the law, you trusted institutions, and in return, there was an unspoken promise. If things ever went truly bad, the country would step in. That promise is gone. Completely gone. Look around. Natural disasters wipe out entire towns, and FEMA runs out of money halfway through the year. Veterans sleep in cars while billions vanish overseas with zero accountability. East Palestine, Ohio gets poisoned, and the people are told the water is probably fine. Maui burns, and survivors are handed hotel vouchers that expire before rebuilding even begins. The federal government now spends more on interest payments on debt than on national defense. And that alone should scare you because it means there is no slack left in the system. When Social Security checks go out late, when Medicare reimbursements get delayed, when disaster aid slows to a crawl, that's not incompetence, that's insolvency. And here's the part no one wants to say out loud. When resources get scarce, governments don't help more, they triage. They decide who is economically productive and who is not. Older Americans are quietly being reclassified as a liability. You see it in healthcare rationing, in insurance denials, in hospital systems closing rural clinics that serve retirees. You see it when crime explodes and police response times double because cities can't afford to staff departments anymore. You see it when prosecutors stop charging theft under $1,000 because the system can't handle enforcement. The social contract has collapsed. You are now expected to self-insure, self-protect, self-rescue, and self-fund the final decades of your life, while still paying into a system that no longer serves you. That's not a functioning country. That's managed decline. And the most terrifying part? There will be no announcement, no press conference, no apology. One day you'll just realize the help isn't coming. And by then, it will be too late to prepare. In the America you knew is already gone, and it's never coming back. This is the hardest one to hear, especially if you're over 50, because this isn't about money or housing or healthcare. This is about loss. The America you grew up in, the one where effort meant stability, where tomorrow was supposed to be better than today, does not exist anymore. Not in decline, not under threat. Gone. The country you remember was built on cheap energy, a strong dollar, a growing middle class, shared cultural values, and faith in institutions. Every one of those pillars has collapsed. Cheap energy is gone. The dollar is weakening. The middle class is hollowed out. Culture is fractured beyond repair. And trust is extinct. You can feel it everywhere. People don't believe the news. They don't believe elections. They don't believe doctors, banks, schools, or even each other. This is what late-stage empire looks like. Not tanks in the streets, but disorientation, nostalgia, and exhaustion. You're told everything is fine while your lived experience screams otherwise. You're told to be grateful while your standard of living shrinks year after year. You're told this is normal adjustment when deep down you know it's something much darker, a system winding down. And here's the brutal truth no politician will admit. There is no going back. No election fixes this. No policy reversal restores what was lost. The debt is too large. The trust is too broken. The demographics are too inverted. The incentives are too corrupt. This isn't a downturn. It's an ending. And that doesn't mean life is over. but it does mean the rules have changed forever. The future will belong to those who accept reality early, adapt quietly, and stop waiting for institutions that no longer function. The greatest danger for people 50 plus isn't collapse itself, it's denial. Believing that the America you knew will somehow reassert itself if you just hold on a little longer. It won't. What comes next will be something entirely different. The only question left is whether you face that future prepared or blindsided. You gave your life to this country, and this is what you got in return? You paid your dues, you raised your kids, you sacrificed, saved, and played by the rules. And now, the rules have changed. They moved the finish line. And they're acting like you were never invited to the race in the first place. They're cutting your benefits, gutting your savings, inflating your bills, and blaming you for not keeping up. They hollowed out your future. And they're doing it with a straight face. This isn't just a political failure. It's a moral one. You were promised security. You were promised dignity. Instead, you got a front row seat to the deliberate dismantling of everything you spent your life building. And if you're still waiting for someone to fix it, they're not coming. Because no one's coming to save us. We have to save ourselves. So don't go quiet. Don't go numb. Don't let them pretend this is normal. If you feel this in your gut, if you're angry, betrayed, or scared, then you're not alone. Leave a comment. Share this with someone who still believes we're going to vote our way out of this. And hit subscribe. Because this collapse isn't slowing down, and we'll be here every week to expose every step of it. This was never just about survival. It's about remembering who we are and refusing to go down quietly.